going to hit record. And how are you?
Good. I just got off hazardous materials call with Contra Costa County. So I'm like, running from one meeting to the next.
Well, you better get used to it.
I know. We have a lot going on right now. So
yeah, well, I see. And I'm pulling up the questions. There they go. Yeah. Well, and coming from the people. So
I know. We'll see.
But yeah. Oh, but before we get into it, how was your conversation, debate, whatever you want to call it, yesterday?
With Stephanie. So Stephanie Williams-Rogers is running for Brentwood Union School District. I was corrected. It's not Unified.
Okay.
And it was really good. It was great to get to meet her and just hear a little bit about her background and all the stuff that she's done. That will be great, a great foundation to her skill set to bring over to Brentwood School District. It was awesome. She has it posted on her page. I don't know if you want to watch it before you talk to her, but
nope.
Yeah, it was.
When or if she sets up something, no, I that's why I asked you. I didn't. I haven't looked at the highlights or anything. I want to keep my mind as unfettered as possible, so then that way.
I know. You're good.
No bias. Well, I'm not a professional at this, so. But let's start with, why don't you introduce yourself and what it is you are running for in our great city?
So I am Jovita Mendoza, and I'm running for Brentwood City Council District 1. So that is the upper northwest corner of Brentwood. So from Brentwood Hills, so St. Augustine, all the way north and all the way east to the railroad tracks.
Okay.
It's okay.
No,
I'll pull up a map and show you later.
Yeah. No, it's only, I've lived here, how long now? 13 years. And I have to sit and think, because I go by streets and not really the north, south, east, west. And that's strange because I'm a military guy, but I still don't do the north, south, east, west. So, but thank you for joining today. And I have, of course, some questions here, and I have them broken down. Oh, actually, though, but I'm going to start with a question that you asked, or you had stated what you wanted to do during your first term, what it is you want to focus on. So let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, this first year is housing and setting a tone that as a city, we are not going to do rezones. We're not going to do it just to appease the builder. We're going to do it because it's the right thing to do for the community if it comes up and if the residents are about it. But if not, I don't want to do rezones. We need to focus on the Innovation Center, formerly PA1. I think that's going to be key for a few reasons, because jobs are important. People are driving a long ways to get to work. There's not really any really high paying jobs here, like we find out in Walnut Creek, Silicon Valley, San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So just working on PA1 to, have the city focus on that, because that's one of the things the council does, is they tell the city staff where to focus their time. So making sure that is top of mind for everyone, because as soon as that is done, then the jobs start coming in, then the tax revenue starts coming in. So we really need that. So, it'd be twofold. People get jobs closer to home at a livable wage is what I'm hoping. And then also that tax revenue will start now coming in, because we're weaning off of developer fees. And, I always say developer fees are like, kind of like a quick crack hit. You get your fee and you're done. But we're going to run out of land. And time again, residents have said no to moving the urban limit line. So we're going to run out of that revenue. So that's important. And then emergency services, that's on top of everyone's mind. We need to make sure that we are partnering with the fire department, that we're partnering with the county and other cities around us, that we're all coming to the table and we're all trying to find solutions. It's not just a Brentwood solution, it's a regional solution.
Okay.
So those are kind of the high level things. I mean, there's also outside of city limits. One of my big things I'm working on, which is the call I just got off of, is the oil drilling. It's oil and gas, 3 drills, 1,000 feet from homes. So that's not in Brentwood proper, but it impacts Brentwood residents greatly. It impacts your health. It impacts your property values. There's homes up here that have had to shore up their foundations because they're on tapped wells. So again, not Brentwood proper, but it's important to Brentwood residents. And I've been working a lot on that since May.
Okay, so you say not in Brentwood proper, but so where is this? I don't know if it's a proposed or, we're trying to stop the inevitable, but where is it that you're referring to? The spot.
So it is, when I say the northwest corner, it's 1,000 feet outside of our city boundary line. So 1,000 feet from homes in Brentwood. And I don't know if you know where Copperfield Court is in Brentwood Hills.
Not off the top of my head, but.
Well, I'll get you a map,
okay,
but it's 1,000 feet from Brentwood homes outside the city limit.
Okay, let's talk streets. Are we talking about Brentwood Boulevard and Lone Tree? Are we talking about Main Street?
No, you're walking, like, you can see Deer Valley from that top part. So it's all over on the west side. Okay. So you remember the Measure L land that they had?
Oh, yeah.
So north of that Measure L land.
Okay.
Right there in all that agricultural area.
Okay, got it. Oh, okay, yeah, and you're right that even though it's not in Brentwood proper, it is still a little too close to home. Now,
you need to take a more active role with that for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's why I am thankful that you're doing this and the other candidates are doing this, because it just in the little bit of time that I've been doing research and preparing, it's like, oh my God, sometimes you really, you got to be prepared when you peel the onion that your eyes are going to water, because it's like, wow, the oil drilling proposal, I won't call it a proposal, but this development now that's going to go on at Sand Creek and Brentwood Boulevard,
right?
Catty corner from McDonald's. That was news to me. Now, I don't know if it was news to anybody
You're
else.
saying the shopping center with the Denny's and all of that?
Yes.
And the grocery outlet?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, but that was a surprise. And again, it was a surprise to me. I don't know. I know a bit more now from other conversations that this was a plan that was shelved or postponed or whatever the case may be, and now it is reignited. The challenge I find with that, with the reignition, is the homes. If I was buying a home on that north side of Brentwood Boulevard and Sand Creek, that's right butted up against where a Denny's and other industries that don't really seem conducive to a brand new home, just on the other side of the wall.
Have you ever been to the Denny's in Emeryville at 2 a.m. after you leave the club? I mean, they're busy.
Oh yeah, well, that was a long time ago in a previous life, but yes.
Well, it was a long time ago for me too, but I know what Denny's is like at 1, 2 in the morning.
Right.
And it's going to be pretty close to home.
Yeah, and that's why, again, I found out that it was on the shelf, and then it kick-started again.
You know what's worse about this, Danny, though? I think the thing that's worse is we're not finding out this information from our cities. We're finding them out from developers. I'm on the supplier side, but for many, many years, I was on the retail side. And I find out things from people I know in retail before I even hear about it from the city. And people think like, oh, someone on the council told her. No, like we all talk in retail. We talk about everything. People call and ask me questions about Brentwood. So it's a shame to me that I heard it from someone I know, not on the city website first.
Well,
it shouldn't be like that.
It shouldn't be like that. And the only reason I know about it was I was doing research for my interviews with those who are running for the school board. And I have not been involved in Brentwood school since my kid graduated in 2008. So I'm doing this research.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I find on the back page practically of the virtual Brentwood Express, oh yeah, this was approved. And I was like, wait a minute, what is this? And it had the map and everything. And as I said, when I found out more about it earlier today, and that's when I found out it was something that was reignited. Well, my question, and I'm going to ask you this question too, when you become a member of the city council, and one of you, at least one of you, are going to win that I talk to. So I know when I say when you're on it, I got to be right. So, but
one of us. But hopefully, I'm the only one you talk to, and I'm the only one you say that to. I'm getting your positive energy.
hey, so far, yes, so far, I've spoken to Karen and Ryan, and
Kamala?
no,
Kamala.
yeah, but anyway, no, you, as far as I know, see, this is the thing too, and I have to admit, I'm woefully ignorant. I honestly didn't know who was running for what. I saw names, and that was basically it. And I saw the signs, and I had to admit to myself, I am woefully ignorant, and son of a gun, I'm probably not the only one. But let me get out of that rabbit hole to go back to my gripe, which is there seems to be no expiration date on a project. It's my understanding that this project that I'm referring to was approved, I'll be generous and say 5 years ago, but I think it was even earlier than that. And with the direction Brentwood has been going, I don't think that this same type of project would have been approved today. And that now rolls into the question of, there's nothing we could do about projects that were approved years ago. But should there not be an expiration date on projects that were approved?
Yeah, and there should be. There's a few reasons why there should be. Number one, yes, if things change, the town changes, residents' demands change. But number two, and my biggest concern about people holding on to applications is fire. So we now are putting, the city's going to have fire fees on different businesses and homes. So if you submitted your application years ago before, then you were grandfathered in, which doesn't seem fair to me because you're still going to have the same impact. So I don't like that people hold on to things for a long time. Bridalgate, and I need to, once I'm on the council, I'll understand a little bit more because I know Bridalgate expired, the original 166 home development. And they said, well, no, it's a whole new project. They brought it all back. So at what point does it go away? At what point does it stay? How long can you hold on to something and say you're grandfathered in to not paying fire fees, which I think is ridiculous.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a short answer. I agree with you. I don't think they should be able to hold on to those approvals for infinity. It doesn't seem right.
No, absolutely. And when you're on the council then, because I don't know if this is something that is baked into the system, if it's something that, oh, well, no one's ever thought about it before, and yes, we need to think about it now. But when you're on the council, what will you be willing to attempt to corral that, to put a true expiration date on it? And then the follow-up question to that is, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? And I mean this, honestly, as a person of Brentwood, it seemed like this plan just kind of slid in under the radar. And we're at a point now where, for this particular project anyway, all right, well, it seems like it's too late. But if I had bought that housing, there's a housing development, as I said, it's literally going to be on the other side of the wall. And I would not be too thrilled at having a Denny's, and there's, you know, a space for that hasn't even been allocated yet. And
Yeah.
so we can't do anything about what has happened, but are you, or can you work to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And actually, let me go back to let me rephrase that question. I am sure that there are projects similar to this that are in the pipeline that maybe have the opportunity to, at the very least, be revisited.
Yeah.
Is there a way you, as either a member of the city council or maybe as a private citizen, is there any way we can find that out and prevent this?
Yeah. I can help find out what the rules are. I don't know off the top of my head, off of my head, but no, we need rules. And if I have been actively attending planning commission meetings and city council meetings, and that's one of my biggest gripes is like, we can't just say you've had this forever and then, oh, well, there's no CFDs attached. So I will fight for that. I think we need it, because if not, our fire department's never going to have the funds. And again, we are close to build out. So if we don't hold what we have still to build out accountable for fire, we're never going to have the funds. And that is one of the biggest concerns of residents here in Brentwood is our fire services. So we really need to work on that. I mean, I was just upset because Oakley just approved a big development that they've been sitting on the books forever as well. It's another C&O property, and there's no fire fees attached, and they're part of the same fire district. So that's going to exacerbate our problem here in Brentwood. It's just awful. It's, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting. I was asking, are we talking about the Amazon thing, or is this something in addition to that?
No, it's another home development. No, it's a housing development. And, you know, and someone says, oh, this has been on the books forever. And I'm like, exactly. So it's been, and I think I even made a comment like that on Facebook. Like, so why don't they have to, once you approve the permits, why don't they have to come up and be accountable for what we're doing now and what we're dealing with now? And at one point, does the city say, no, we're not giving you these permits anymore? So whether it's because the people there don't want it, or because, you know, the circumstances have changed, at one point, can we? I won't know more about that until I'm on council and I can speak to legal about that. I have a feeling I'll be speaking to legal about a lot of stuff, but that's definitely one of the things I'll be speaking to them about.
Oh.
So I share your concerns as a resident. I don't like it at all. So, I mean, I'm not happy about it.
No, and I'm glad you're not happy about it, because if you were, it'd be a whole different story. Now,
do you watch city council meetings or no? You haven't watched anything on city council? Oh no, you said you attended one.
I attended one. It was during when we had the curfew, and so I went to give my opinion on the curfew circumstance. And I won't bore the audience.
Did you speak about your son during that?
Yes, I did.
I remember that.
Yes, I did.
I was there.
Yeah, I love you, son. And
yeah,
I've had.
Yeah, you did.
I've had some great interactions with city officials and local constabulatories, and I have had others. So, but.
Well, I'm hoping that, but when it comes to attending meetings, I think it's important across the board, right? Because your concerns that you're saying right now are not only your concerns, they're other resident concerns, and the council is there to take it. I'm signing up for a job. Some people are not going to like me. Some people are going to come and lambast me, and that's okay. But I don't know what you're not happy with if you don't come and tell me. So I'm hoping that, you know, you're having these interviews, but I'm hoping it's also an invitation to everyone else who has the same question to come to session, even before I'm elected. Like, you should all be showing up, whoever's watching this now, and now you can do it from the comfort of your own home.
Oh, absolutely. I did attend the last virtual one. Well, maybe not the last one, but recently one. And it was interesting from the standpoint, I know this is a new normal, new learning experience, being able to communicate with each other as well as the population. So, but I agree with you 100%. And as a matter of fact, that's why I'm doing this, because yeah, I know I need to be more actively involved, because when I moved out here 17 years ago, the reason I moved out here was the real estate person told me that this being Brentwood, the plan was to create a Northeast Alamo or Blackhawk, from the standpoint of very limited growth, and that we were going to keep that farm look and feel. And those two things, I was very attracted to that. When I had my house built for me, and that was a beautiful thing. Being a poor kid from the projects in San Francisco to having a home built for me is beautiful. And I could only have done it here in Brentwood. And so I understand the attraction. That being said, and this is going to roll into my question about agriculture. When I first moved out here, there was a horse ranch around the corner from my house. There was a pig farm on Minnesota. We had the olive growing, get your olive oil on Lone Tree.
Oh yeah.
And so, that we are slowly losing the architectural, that agricultural, not architectural. It's been a long day.
I know what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But believe me, there are going to be some people on Nextdoor that they knit and they pick. But
on Nextdoor, nitpicking? No.
Yeah.
You don't say.
Yeah. It's that's a story for another day. But no. And that's the beautiful thing about the town square aspect of Nextdoor.
Yeah.
That's why I like doing it like this. And you're going to have nitpickers, and you know who you are.
Yep.
But anyway,
it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. But going back to that farmland type of feel, I understand part of the reason why that land is being turned over into housing and whatnot is you have developers that go to these farmers and, here, we have a gang of money for you. And you have land that may have been in your family for generations, but with the price of everything and the constraints that are unique to farmers and growers, I can understand the attraction. And so, especially with COVID, we as a nation, we as a county, we as a town, we're given opportunities vis-a-vis PPP and other loans or grants to small businesses and to regular folks. Why can't we do that for our agriculture to keep them, from losing the land that they've had for generations?
No, I agree. And that's one of the reasons we moved out here too. We love the agricultural aspect of it. We love the open land. We think it's one of the best things about living out here. I mean, I was sad that, the streets of Brentwood used to be a walnut orchard. So we were sad when all of that went away. But I moved here knowing what was going to happen because I looked at the general plan. So some things I'm not shocked about, other things I am, and I'm against, because that's a bait and switch, in my opinion. But we need to find a way to help them. So is it grant money that we have when we start getting increased tax revenue? Is it things that we can look at the state level that they might help us encourage agriculture? Is it us finding a way to market the area as agriculture? Is it doing research and finding, are they growing the right commodity to make the most money off of the land? Like, so, you'll notice that off of Vasco, the nuns switched it all, and now they bought some of the Tamayos, and now it's all vineyards, and that's great. Like, they found something else to do on the land that would make them a profit. So what do we do as a city to help do that research and have some kind of incubators to help them drive tourism and find different places that they could sell it to. I think that's going to be key because we can't lose that. That's the core of who we are. And like you, like me, I'm sure there's a lot of people out here that move for that same reason. So that's one thing it's important to me. So we're going to have to find a way to find dollars for that. Before COVID struck, we were going to have a weekend where it's a wine weekend because we have wineries. And the first weekend was going to be in Martinez, and there was going to be a trolley driving people to wineries there. And it was covered by the city. And, you know, Brentwood was paying for it. It was going to come to Brentwood and then drive everyone around the different wineries and different wine shops. And we have quite a few now. And I thought that was great. You know, I know some people didn't like to spend. I thought it was a great spend. You would bring in, you'd buy a ticket and you would get both days. So you'd bring in people to Brentwood that have never been here, have never been exposed to us having wineries. And I think it's great. That's how you build tourism to a wine area. Livermore has done a great job about it. And it's not just wine, but it's how do we, you know, Smith Family Farm and what they do during the fall and during Christmas. Like, how do we take that and create it at different farms more than just a few weekends? Because, you know, we get that big amount of tourism during cherry weekend, but what do we do to create these I call them holidays? I mean, cherry picking isn't really a holiday, but we've created this cherry picking holiday.
Right.
How do we create these holidays that people want to come out here for? And how do we increase the offering so that there's more for them to go visit and see?
Okay. No, and
so we got to find a way to help them.
Yes, and that's and I know you can't do anything until you're in office. But I had a conversation with Ryan earlier, and he was speaking about the city and what the city needs to do. And I said, well, with all due respect, Ryan, when you're in that chair, you are the city. It's going to be you. It's going to be the other people who win our vote. So I think that's one of the frustrations of us as your neighbor is that people talk in constructs, and it's not a matter of, oh yeah, the city's got to do this and the city's going to do this and the city's got to find a way. And it's like, well, sometime in December, you're going to be the city, and
we have to decide where staff spends their time. And there's 5 votes. I'm hoping everyone is in line with keeping safe our agricultural area and finding a way to promote it and grow it. It's going to take 5 votes. I mean, well, 3 votes out of the 5.
Right.
Because we're going to have to dedicate money. So hopefully the others are on board with spending money on that.
Well, hopefully so, because it does seem like, and you kind of touched on a point that I just discovered today, and that is...
You've been busy today.
It's been a busy day, but that's okay. I love it. I really do. It's fascinating what I am learning, both in a positive aspect and in a, oh God, maybe I don't want to know this.
Annie, I'm going to get you involved in my oil drilling and the anti-bridal day. I'm going to bring you on. I need you.
Okay. Hey,
you would have had fun on the hazardous materials call today. It was great.
Oh yeah. No, you can complain about the city, or you can do something, or you can help. And I have a very long career in complaining, so I figured I'd change roles and go into the do something about it business. But yes,
perfect.
I have you on tape now too, so that one of those when you win, Danny. Who?
Danny, I need your help because I'm too busy on council. I need you to come do this for me in Contra Costa.
Hey, I am retired, so if you're gonna pull me out of my chair watching Law and Order, okay, I can do that for you because I'm doing it for the city.
Now, I have this on tape too, so now I'm gonna hold you to that.
Okay, all right. So mutual handshake on that.
Perfect.
When you talked about, actually, it's a perfect segue into the plan. From what I understand, the plan took years to develop. It was initiated in 2014. And there have been so many amendments to the plan that why don't we just scuttle the plan? because we keep putting in amendments and changes and things like that. And, you know, in my previous life, I was a project manager. And so I know the first rule of a plan is the plan is flawed. You just don't know where. The other part, though, is when you keep putting amendments or changes into the plan, in project management speak, that's called scope creep. And so after a while, you diverge from the original goal, which I don't know why people don't talk about the goal, you know, because, and I forgot who quoted this, I wish it was me, but a plan without a goal is a wish. And so when we talk about the plan, I would think the goal is to have a nice, robust, small town feel city. But with these amendments that keep coming in, and honestly, they wouldn't come in without local government either assisting or at least not restricting. I don't know if there's a question in there now. Now I'm thinking.
Okay, so here's my thing about the plan. I think the original plan is a great plan. I think that people on the council have lost sight of that. And I think you say project creep or something, I think it's developer creep. And they have crept into our city. And I've been very honest about this. That's not a secret to, you know, people on the council know I feel like this. When one person has taken $5,000 from CNO, $1,000 from Denova, $2,000 from GBN, when another one has taken $20,000 for a council seat from CNO, another $2,000 from GBN, there is no way it doesn't influence you in some way in your psyche. It's just, you cannot tell me it doesn't.
Right.
So my goal is that we do not veer from the plan, because it's a good plan. If you ever have time, I mean, we have comments in there about how long it should take for fire to get to you, emergency services. And we have built so much as a city that those are no longer valid. So I'm going to say, no, we promised this to our residents in our general plan, that this was going to be it. So if we can't keep to that promise, I can't vote for it. Because then basically all it is a lie. And are we liars? Because that's what I feel like everyone up there who's like, oh yeah, let's do it, no problem. They're all lying. And this isn't just 2014. This problem is way old. It's not a new problem. I mean, and here's the thing is, we are lucky some of these creeping in of development was outside the urban limit line, because then we got to say. So people might not know this, but there was 2 Measure Ls, because, they're done at random, the letters. I think it was 2005. So developers wanted to move the urban limit line, voted it down. That was the original Measure L. And then Measure F, another time they wanted to move the urban limit line, voted it down. And then there was the rezone for the golf courses. That one was inside city limits, but we made such a big noise about it that the city council did not approve it. And then the last one was this last Measure L. And I think voters really, if you do not want to veer away from the plan, you need to look at all of these initiatives, who has signed in support of these initiatives, who has backed them up in their marketing, who has stayed quiet because they don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Right.
But one of my competitors signed the ballot for all of these urban limit line moves. So I'm not about that. I'm going to stick to the plan. I know you say it's done, but we need to stick to it. We need to read it. We need to honor it. And we need to protect our residents with their investment that they made. Not only financial investment, but a quality of life investment. So I'm very passionate about the plan.
Oh, well, and the thing is, I am now because, again, woefully ignorant. But as this year has progressed, again, it's like peeling back onion, and my eyes are just watering from, oh my God. Some of it's good. But the thing is, the project manager in me is when I see this expansion, this scope creep, then there should be a point where, okay, enough's enough. We either stick to the plan or we scuttle the plan. There really shouldn't be this little addendums and, oh, let me sneak this in since we're in the neighborhood of this conversation. And actually
Yep.
that is going to lead me into, because I'm not a big fan of growth, period. And it's selfish of me. Okay. But whether it is
But that's what you bought into,
that,
right? You bought into small growth. That's what you paid for. Anything outside of that is a bait and switch, and you got jacked.
right.
So I'm sorry, that's the way I see it.
No. And I agree. But this also now goes into the housing side of it too, not just the economic growth, which just means businesses, but the homeowner side too. When my family and I moved out here, the sign on the welcome to Brentwood said there were 50,000 people here. And as I said, if not here earlier, one of the selling points was that Brentwood was going to be the next newest Black Hawk Alamo. And I like that. So, well, yeah, of course, there's going to be expansion. But now we're losing that look and feel. And I got to turn back into what the question's going to be. And that is our current homeless and soon to be homeless situation. The question I asked Karen, and I'll ask you as well, is let's assume that 1,000 families this year will wind up losing their home, and through no fault of their own necessarily. And I won't say you necessarily, because I really don't remember where your stance is on new growth, new building growth. But let's say that there are 1,000 new homes slated for growth. Well, that's a net of 2,000 homes, 1,000 of which people have had and now are going to lose. So how does that jive? How do we justify building new homes to bring people in from the city if we already have people who are living here that are soon going to lose their homes?
Well, that's a hard one for me to answer because I don't want to build anymore right now. If it were up to me, we would have a state of emergency that because of our emergency services, we are not building out until that's resolved. So whether it's the county that resolves it, the cities that resolve it, I don't know. But I would say there is no build out until we figure out our state of emergency on emergency response times. So it's a hard one because I'm not answering it the way you asked it because I already have a preconceived notion of what I want to do. Well, now you're hearing it, but like one of my first things is like, I want to bring it to the agenda, a state of emergency. How can we continue? Like we should freeze it. Nothing should come to planning commission. Nothing should come to city council until we feel like we can protect our residents. And it's not going to go well. It's not going to go over well with a lot of people, but I'm not here for businesses. I'm here for residents. That's your city council, right? Like that's your first and foremost responsibility. If you can't keep them safe, then why are you even doing your job? I mean, I shouldn't be there if that's not my first priority. So it doesn't answer your question, but again, because I already know what I want to do when it comes to that.
No,
and the other thing is,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, when it also comes to building, I mean, let's look at Bridalgate. They want to go from 166 units to over 500. I'm not okay with that. Like, there's no way. We're not going to explode from 166 to over 500. There's a few reasons. I mean, I don't know if you like changing commercial to residential at the base of PA1. You allow CNO to do that. We could lose all of PA1 if all of these other landowners decide to do it or decide to sue the city because you let CNO do it. And there goes, I mean, we will be bankrupt because we will not have a sales tax income stream anymore if that goes away. So, I mean, I'm not into adding homes to our plan at all.
And believe me, you're preaching to the choir here. And you did answer the question. You brought up, I hadn't thought about the, and I forgot how you said it, but the emergency, I'm sorry, what you, basically one of those emergency proclamations. Stop.
We should have a state of emergency. where until we can keep our residents safe, we stop building. It is not fair to people who are living here that we keep adding new homes and bringing new warm bodies, and now we're putting them at even more risk because you never know what can be going on simultaneously.
Okay, now let's, for the sake of argument, say you miss it by a couple of votes, okay, getting in. How do we, as just normal folk here in Brentwood, how can we push for something like that? Because that was something I hadn't thought of until you said it, and it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So how would one go about doing that?
So I invite everyone to come to city council meetings. At the beginning of the city council meeting, it's like public time. Anyone can speak about anything. So, I mean, there's times I speak about stuff that I'm sure they don't want to hear about, but I show up and I speak. Also, planning commission, they have a public time. You can tell them, like, stop approving stuff. And I will say there is a new person on the planning commission that has I don't want to speak for her, but she seems to have great concern about our emergency services. So she's thinking like no one I've ever seen think on the planning commission. But I also think that for those who are in those roles, because when I'm on city council, I'm going to need people to come and tell me, because you all know I feel like that, but I need you to come and tell me and tell all my cohorts you feel like that, because they're, a couple of them are going to be up for re-election. So they're probably going to start listening a little bit more to you than they might have in a couple of years past.
Well, and I don't even know what, believe me, that's a rabbit hole I am trying to avoid jumping into, because, like I said, just that, we have the soon to be homeless, and, and right now there is the moratorium on, people losing their homes, or either from renting or owning. But the thing is, that debt is still incurring. And now the question, it's going to be a question, and you may not have the answer to it, but could we not, either one, and I'm not a politician, so I'm not sure if I'm using the right nomenclature, but either put in a bond measure or dip into our slush fund to help lighten the burden of these people so that they can stay in their homes and their apartments the same way the state did with businesses.
Yeah, I think we need to do a risk assessment if it comes to that and figure out exactly what that amount would be. Because I mean, I could say, yeah, let's do it, and then it's 3 times our, our rainy day fund. So I wouldn't sign up for something. I think first we would need to do a risk assessment. Is there anything at the county level and at the state level that we could leverage? And also our own, rainy day fund, how can we help them? But no, I do agree with you, but not only with residents, I think with businesses too. We're just losing, Vitality Bowl, I can't remember, over here by Willie's Bagels, a business is shutting down that opened right when COVID started, and it's heartbreaking.
Right.
It's sad. So I agree with you. We have to find a way. And again, we, the council, decide where staff spends their time. So assess what's going on, figure out, is there a county option for them? Is there a state option for them? Is there a federal option for them? Mm-hmm. And if there is, how do we put workshops together so that we can help them? Because I think that's what's going to have to happen, is we're going to have to go find the people that it's happening to, bring them in and say, this is what we can do. These are different avenues to be able to get funds to pay off your mortgage. Or how do you refinance? So, like back in the day, people refinanced and moved their payments to the end. So how do we do that? Also partnering with our board of supervisors. I've been, I was on a call with them 2 days ago about emergency climate resolution. And they are very receptive to helping when you reach out, but they can't fix what they don't know is broken. So I think that's a big part too, is how do we work closer with Diane Burgess, who's our county supervisor? How do we get her involved? Because then she can dedicate staff time to help us also. So let's find everyone we can leverage and get it done.
Okay.
So does that answer your question? Yeah.
No. You did. And thank you for not talking like a politician. And maybe that's because you're a newbie at it. So I'm glad I'm getting you while you're still a newbie before you start dropping the usual political jargon. And I'm sure.
No, I mean, I present to a lot of VPs and I present the same way. EVPs, I don't change the way I talk. And they're always like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like it goes better. I mean, I think it goes better. My message gets across. I don't fluff it up. I don't lie. So,
Well, no.
I feel like even from a sales side.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, we share that, I believe. Before I get off the growth topic, when I talked about now the business expansion part of it, all right, my biggest pet peeve is we have developers building new commercial structures when we have existing commercial structures that can be occupied. And my favorite go-to places, Best Buy, the old Best Buy, and the old Mervyn's Hobby Lobby. And that's just Brentwood, and that's just the two that come off the top of my head. So
the street empty.
Well, yeah. No, the streets also. They do have a churn that goes on in there. And you just reminded me, my wife asked the question to ask of you, but it has to do with businesses. But how do you rationalize the building, small business building complex that's proposed just south of Lone Tree, where there's going to be a hopefully BART expansion, things like that, or just
the Innovation Center.
The Innovation Center.
Well, the Innovation Center is a little bit different. Like that, it's going to be more like a Bishop Branch in San Ramon area. So we want there to be businesses with livable wage jobs. So it's a different market. It's not commercial, like storefront commercial. It'll be businesses. That's the goal for the area, so that people can find jobs here. We talk about Brentwood has a lot of skilled residents, right, and we're taking those skills other places. So we think we have the workforce now. We have the workforce now that can really fill some high level jobs. So it's a different customer when it comes to real estate. Okay. But if we can talk about the blight a little bit, I have opinions about blight. I will have more conversations with Terrence, who works for the city. He deals with all of this when I'm elected. And I don't understand why we don't have blight ordinances like other cities do. Oakland does, I think San Jose does, San Francisco does. If you as a landlord have rent that is so high and you're not renting it, you get your tax write-off and you write it off. So you're fine.
Right.
And the residents are the ones that are left with the blight. So I want to understand how those cities are going to market with those. What are the legal ramifications for doing it? How high can I go? Because my fee has to be painful enough that these landlords, it's better off for them to lower their rent and fill that store than to keep paying my fee as a city person, right? So there's these cities that I want to talk to, and I want to understand their blight laws because we have to do something. An example is Yogurt Pizzazz at the streets closed down. And my understanding from someone is that their rent is so high that there's no way it's not going to work. Okay. But they're getting their tax write-off, so they don't care. And I'm like, no, it should be painful for you to keep it closed. I'm not saying don't make money. They should make money. They're landlords. But we should have those. There should be consequences for leaving our city in blight. And someone said, well, you're going to discourage business. I'm like, I'm not talking about the businesses. I think actually we will build storefronts if we start finding that point of equilibrium that fills them. So that's going to be a big project too.
Oh yeah, no, and blight is the right word. As I said, that I talked about Best Buy and the old Hobby Lobby, and then there's that monstrous half-built Skeletor that's on Lone Tree and Fairview.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that drives me crazy.
But they're getting another gas station and a car wash there.
Yeah, I know. I know, but let this, yeah,
I know.
believe
Go
me,
ahead. Go ahead.
that's a whole different rant, and that I'm sure that
We
I'm,
can talk about it later.
yeah. But now this goes into the question my wife asked me to ask, not just of you, but anyone else who I talk with, and that is the uh, minority business enterprise or woman business enterprise opportunities out here. Well, honestly, they don't seem to be out here. So, with that in mind, what are your thoughts on encouraging that type of growth? And let me give you an example. Um, uh, when it comes to, say, I won't say nightclub because that's not really the right term, but a place, a
A
supper
lounge.
club, a lounge. Yeah, it seems like it's extremely difficult and not even encouraged because of the genre or the demographic that it would attract. And so I won't say it's being discouraged, but it certainly isn't being encouraged. And so, how would you address trying to encourage small business owners, minority owned businesses, women owned businesses? That's what those initials stood for those who didn't know.
Yeah.
How would you encourage that?
So I do think there is something that goes on with demographics. I don't think it's a business only thing. Stephanie and I talked about it last night. There's something that's going on. When I moved here, the population it was 20 years ago. And when I moved here, I think the Latino population was over like 35% or something like that, because I looked at that before we moved.
Right.
And now it's dwindled down. And I do think there's people of color feeling like their voices are a little lost. And I even like speaking to the Latinos, they feel like they're being pushed out, and it's everywhere. It's and it's in business too. And I don't know if it's intentional or it's just kind of what's happening. But I do think we need to find a way to do outreach. I don't know if you watched the city council meeting with Ariel that came and spoke about her struggles being a woman of color in Brentwood, and I totally get it. It's hard sometimes to live in Brentwood and you feel discouraged, and it's just, we're all the same, but there's like I told you, like I mentioned earlier, like Denny's at 2 a.m, right? There is sometimes that scene, like it's busy. Maybe it's not the right place to be by the homes, but there's businesses that we can find spots for that are welcoming of people that are different than the establishments we have today, because they're all very similar. And while I love going to a lot of these places, I do wish there was something a little bit different. And I think that's going to be us doing outreach, working with Terrence, because Terrence is the development economic gentleman. So we're going to have to figure it out. And I'm big on research. So researching, what do people want and how do we get it there? And even yesterday, when I was talking to Stephanie, we talked about the youth commission. And I said to her, I said, we were all in high school. We all know the kind of kid that applies to the youth commission and makes it. And, he or she is so happy, but it's the same type of person. And I said, what are you going to do to bring in different types of voices to the youth commission? Like, they might not go and apply because they've never felt welcome.
Right.
But you need to invite them in. So I think it's the same thing across Brentwood. How do we invite people in that feel like they're not super welcome? And I think that's everyone's job. I mean, if there's a group of people not feeling welcome, what are we doing that's making them feel like that, right?
Right.
So I think there's a lot of opportunity. I would love a lounge. I think it'd be fantastic. Or anything else, any different type of business that people would visit that is just not the normal thing out here.
Right. Well, we'll talk about that offline, because my son is a partner in a supper club in Oakland, and that's where that idea sprung from. But then it was also the question my wife asked. And now, bear in mind, I know sometimes when people hear this type of discussion, they start getting uncomfortable. And so that was not my intent. And I know it wasn't your intent. It's just more of a reality of sorts that, you know, if we're going to say we want to be inclusive, then we need to include. And so I don't think, oh, see, now your phone rings, my phone rings.
But you know, like, you know, if you go downtown, I know, but if you go downtown to Brentwood in non-COVID times, I love that in downtown Brentwood, La Fuente has, you know, Latino music playing, and it's fun and it's different, right? There's different things for different, you know, I don't go to the same kind of places every night.
Right.
So variety to me is important.
No, it
Yeah.
it shouldn't even be something that has to be discussed, but you know, that is the reality of things. Now, with that in mind, I have to now look back at my notes. It's going to be a different subject, so to speak, and it has to do with when you were talking about the development, the emergency declaration, or whatever it is that help stunt this growth. And I don't know. I'm going to paraphrase because I read it from somewhere on Nextdoor, but somebody, when it came to the fire district, somebody had said something along the lines of, well, why don't we just let these buildings or this building burn down because we don't have the resources necessary. Now, I don't know if that was a citizen or if that was somebody in some type of official capacity. The official
I don't
capacity.
think, yeah.
Okay, and again,
No.
I don't know. But I mean,
So Chief Hellman,
go ahead.
yeah, the chief did come out and say they don't have the manpower to put their lives at risk right now, right? It's a risk, and we don't have that many men, you know, or women that work in our firehouses, and it is a big, big risk to send someone in. So what I believe, and I'm paraphrasing here, if there is a structure on fire and there is no one inside, they're going to fight it from the outside. They're not going to go in, which, considering the head count that they have right now and the resources they have, you know, you can't blame them until they get more help. How much can they do? I mean, and it's sad because, you know, it could be our home. It could be my home that burns down, but my home and my things are replaceable. A firefighter's life is not.
Right. No.
And if, you know, there's only a handful of them, then it puts them at greater risk.
And that's
so I think that's what
no, it was, like I said, this was just something I read. That's why I was paraphrasing. I wasn't quite, and I was trying to find that thread. I couldn't find it, but I know it resonated with me, and I know that it is a, no pun intended, a hot topic when it comes to, you know, both sides of the equation, and that's where you get into the Measure L and, you know, blah, 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 blah.
Well, and my thing is, it's such a hot topic. I wish more people would come to city council meetings and fire meetings, right? Because it's important, but they need to hear it. They really do. The city needs to hear it, and the fire department needs to hear it. And even your county, you know, get on a supervisor's call and tell them, like, the majority of this is county land. I mean, you're not legally responsible for fire as a county, just as a city, but you got to come in and help. Because they're not going to, unless we're telling them that's what we want, there's no reason why they should spend the money on it. I mean, would you spend money when no one's asking you to spend the money?
Well, no, but if one of my toilets wasn't flushing properly, even though I don't use it, does that mean, well, no one's asked me to get it fixed, therefore I'm not going to fix it?
But you don't have special interest telling you how to use your money either.
And there it is. And
competing priorities, right?
Yeah, well, that's an adjective and a noun right there. I can think of a few others, but yes, we'll go with competing priorities. Now that actually rolls into, not that, but the other hot topic button is the whole concept of defunding the police. Now, my take on that, and it's something that you're honestly the first person I'm going to ask this of. And this is going to be a pretty long prelude, so apologies in advance. We talked about firefighters, all right? No one disagrees that a firefighter's job is difficult. No one disagrees that a firefighter does not know when they leave their home if they're going to be able to, if they're going to come home, after leaving. It is a job that not many people are cut out to do, and we expect an awful lot of them. I believe that if there were firefighters, I'm talking about just regular, as a business, if a firefighter decides to not do their job, or if they're slacking, every business, you know who the slackers are. You know the people who excel and the people you sit there and say, why are they still here? All right. So, and this is every business. I'm not picking on firefighters. This is going to get into defund the police. But if there were firefighters that weren't doing their job, you would think that you would not defund the fire department. You would work up or work out the people who just aren't cut out for it. Teachers have an extremely difficult job, and they're not cut out for it. Not everyone's cut out for it. There are a lot of people who love doing it. It's their passion. That's all they know. But if they're not doing the job, we certainly would not cut slack and say, well, it's a tough job. Da, 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 da. So now the police, in my opinion, being a police officer is a job. It is not something that you acquire. It's not something that is handed down from generation to generation. There are police out there who I believe are truly passionate about their job. However, I could be passionate about playing basketball, but that doesn't mean I'll make it into the NBA. So instead of defunding the police, why can't we, as citizens, and then therefore you representing us, instead of defunding the police, we treat the position as a job. If a cop's not doing their job, you put them on probation, they do the best they can, they're out. As opposed to this whole, we're going to give everybody a haircut, and then the good cops are being punished, and we're being punished.
Yeah. Okay. So I know no organization is perfect. My organization that I work for, no one. I'm
Right.
sure there is opportunities with our police department. I have not, and I hear a lot. I've never, except for your story of your son, I had never heard a story like that about the police department in Brentwood. I am praying that that is a rare exception and a huge mistake. What happened to your son? I pray, because I heard your story and I was like, oh my God. And a little background, I grew up in Oakland during the Rough Rider era.
Okay.
Like, do you know the Rough Riders in Oakland?
Yes.
So I do have opinions about cops that, and any employee at any organization who would cheat that way should not be in that organization.
Absolutely.
I don't believe that there is an inherent problem in Brentwood. Like we're seeing in LA with that little cult that they have going down in Compton. I don't believe that. I believe that Brentwood has good cops that try to do a good job. They report into the city council, right? We all have read the news about what's gone on in the police department historically in regards to females and things along that line. I would hope that that would be reported as soon as possible. Anything, not just with females, but any kind of harassment should come before the city council as soon as possible, and that should be taken care of. There should never be anyone that has any inkling of harassing anyone else, any place in the city. And police officers are city employees, just like all the other city employees. right? And it should be no tolerance for any kind of harassment. So that's, I think, the first thing. I don't know if that answers it. And again, I am critical just because of what I grew up with. I don't believe that there's an inherent problem unless I see something else once on council. I don't believe so. I even go far enough to say we do need the fifth beat, because I do think they need a little bit of a reprieve to have smaller areas. So I do believe that we need the fifth beat. When it comes to spending, so, you know, people say defund the police. I'm like, that's money. Like, we need to train them appropriately. I mean, we all know about Miles in Walnut Creek that was killed. He was, you know, he was special needs. And I mean, that's awful. So I'm hoping that once I'm there too, we can talk about the training that they're getting, because they're not psychiatrists, they're not social workers, but how do we bring them up as much as possible to learn how to defuse those situations, right? Like, how are the cops at the schools doing? Because we used to have a great one in Heritage that everyone loved. Let's make sure that they are being welcome and they're welcoming of all of the students, right, and they're making it a safe environment, not one where they're trying to intimidate. I think that's important too from a police officer point of view. Is these kids should not be intimidated. They should feel like they're part of their society, part of their neighborhood. So, but then back to the expense part. My thing about the police is on the funding is, are we just spending all of our money wisely? Because there's a head count portion of your expenses, but then there's everything else. So let's make sure that the everything else is really, really looked into a lot, and that we're being smart about our expenses. For example, one of the meetings I sat on about was drones. And my one question was like, how many bids did you guys get? Because did you go with the first bid, or did you try to get the best price for what you're buying? Because it's an expensive buy. And I never got the answer to that. So that's one of the things that we have to be really smart about our spending, because with COVID, we've lost sales tax revenue, and the entire city should be watching every single penny, because those are our pennies as residents. So let's be smart about that. So I don't know if that answers your question about defund the police. And
well, no,
maybe
no, I understand your logic. And again, this is why I'm not talking about, you know, defunding the police. I am not a fan of
yeah, I'm not about, yeah, no.
But I am more of a, why don't we treat this? I mean, people call it blue lives, and God bless it, all right? But it's a blue job.
It's a hard job.
But it's a blue job. And that's why I started off with firefighters and teachers. They may be different, but they are, all three have the same common aspect, and that is they are unique. Not everyone can do it, but we have certain expectations and on both sides of the equation, of our firefighters, of our teachers. But that equation seems to be different on the officer side. And that's why I ask you, as a soon-to-be council person, that what prevents you, because the police report to the council, what stops you from saying, okay, Chief, I want to see the evaluation of all the cops, and then the ones who are below par, subpar, work them up or work them out, just like any job.
And I'd have to understand like the contract aspects, the union aspects, because I could want whatever I want, but I need to understand what's going on with their roles and what it looks like. But again, I mean, I know you had one experience. I haven't heard, besides yours, I haven't heard a lot. I haven't heard that. And I'm praying that it's all good, but I'll find out more when I'm there. We'll see.
I have more than one episode. Now, no. And we'll talk about it offline, because this is not slam the police interview.
No.
That's not my intent. I know you have children, and I hope that when they get into their teenage years, you don't have the interactions that I had with the local law enforcement.
That's heartbreaking.
Well, you know, it's not like it's the Danny Dorman's only had this problem circumstance. And we'll talk about it offline, because
let's talk about it, because I'd like to know what the chief said, because I know you talked to him.
Oh yeah.
So I would like to know what he said. And
and that was the old chief, not the current one. This was
Yeah, but
2000.
I think but Helmick was there when you spoke at the meeting, right? Not that's the fire. The current
He was at
police
the,
department.
well, I thought he was, I'll say new, because the chief I dealt with was, again, this was 2007, 2008. So,
Yeah. But when you left the meeting, did you reached out to the current
oh,
chief? Didn't he want to talk to you?
yes, yes, yes. He pulled
Yeah.
me aside and asked for my ID.
Good.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad. I said it's good that I mean,
No,
some
he
people
did.
might not even want
Yeah.
to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's good that he reached out and talked to you, and that's what should be. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a customer service job.
Right.
Mine will be, is our fire department. I mean, it's a customer service job.
Right.
So I'm glad he reached out to you.
Oh, yeah. And for the record, folks, the reason he reached out to me was I had a big issue about the curfew and the suspension of habeas corpus and all that good stuff. Google it, kids. So it had to do with that.
And they can watch the city council meeting if they want to know more about that night, which I think it was a good night, you know.
No, I think every time I am learning something new every time I go in. So, and I appreciate that. And as I'm speaking, I'm going through the notes that people have given me.
What time is it?
Oh,
We've been talking a long time.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sorry.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's okay. I'm fine. I was just like, oh.
Yeah. Well, because, I'll talk as long as you want to talk. It's not a big deal to me because I think
I
this
don't
is
think
how.
people want to listen to me that long. I'm like, shut it down.
That's why I chop them up into bite-sized nuggets based on the question.
Okay.
So then that way, they can skip over the tirades that I usually try to avoid. School. Now, I know the city council, there's only so much you can do, and some of it is outside your purview. Okay. But I had made a recommendation yesterday about why can't the schools, the existing schools, they have computers. There are kids who need computers. Why not just like Adobe? My son works for Adobe, and they did this. Basically, hey, you have a computer, you have a workstation here in your office in San Francisco, bring it home, work from home.
So I do know our schools did give every single student a computer. And I know that because I reached out to the Heritage principal and I said, hey, if you're short, let me know. And she said, we've got every student covered. So the school district did a great job about reaching out fast to the state, and they got all their computers done, both Brentwood, Union, and Liberty. And then they also went above and beyond and got like the hotspots for some kids that live in areas where they didn't have Wi-Fi. So that's my experience with the school. I'm pretty sure all of the kids got them. I mean, even my daughter, the high schooler, got a note like, hey, pick up your computer. And she was like, my mom bought me one, I'm good. Like, so they had computers for everyone.
Okay, that's great.
And there was a day, yeah, you went, drove, like they picked them up, they trained you like how to do everything and took it home.
Okay, no, that's great. The reason I brought it up was it didn't appear that had happened. So, excuse me, I appreciate the fact that you brought us all up to speed on that. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who is a principal in Oakley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was driving to everyone's kid's house who did not come pick it up at school because you never know what the situation is. And she drove the hotspots and the computers to their homes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
No, and that's, and like I said, when it comes to the educational aspect of our city, I know that there are things that are outside of your sphere of influence.
Yeah.
Well,
so if someone doesn't have a computer, they should call their school because there are computers for every single child.
Oh, okay. And that's great to know. And I am sure that people who are listening to this, that probably perked up their ears. So that's great.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, is there anything you want to express? Because honestly, I can't think of any other questions. And I read through the notes, and I believe I covered the questions that the next door neighbors provided.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, this to me is one of the most important elections we've had in Brentwood since I've been here, and I've been here 20 years. Like you, I used to not pay attention. I thought everything was humming along, and come to find out when you lift up the hood, there was a lot of issues. I want people to look at history of voting. Like, what did your council people vote on? Who fought for you? I want you to look at ballot initiatives and who signed ballot initiatives, because there are some people that are huge proponents of growth, so much so that they signed ballot initiatives about it.
Right.
Look at campaign contributions. Those are key. There is no psychologist that will tell you that a campaign contribution from like a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 is not going to have an impact.
Right.
Right. So I just want everyone to do their homework. And I think a lot of people, I mean, you didn't know who I was, but I've been out there. I invite everyone to participate. If it's not me, just make sure it's someone that you feel is going to do what's in your best interest as a resident. But I would like for it to be me. But yeah.
Well, I will say good luck, because for what it's worth, who knows? But I appreciate your time, and I'm sure the people listening appreciates your time as well. So I wish you the very best of luck, sincerely. And
Thank you.
I'm going to stop the recorder in a minute, and then I could tell you a quick story. So.
Well, this was a lot of fun. So thank you. I was very nervous, but thank you so much.
It's like I said, I'm just a regular guy. You're a neighbor. What affects you affects me no matter what. And now you're asking to help represent us. And to be honest, I'm selfish. What can you do for me? So, but now that everyone else is listening in, they'll say, hey, well, what can you do for me? Next thing you know, you have a gang of supporters asking. So thank you. And again, best of luck. And I'm going to hit the off button. Hopefully I don't disconnect.